Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks and plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Hopefully everybody is doing quite well. Hopefully you are. If you're not, well, hopefully you will be after this episode. Today, I'm joined by another awesome interviewee in Ben Rollman from the Lego show in Bricks Clean in Killeen, Texas. And Ben is very well known, and well, hopefully you get your opportunity to run across him in the future. Again, stay tuned to social media so that you can see some of the photos that I took of some of his builds. It's only some, it's not all. Anyway, if you caught the last episode, you could actually hear his voice in the background because someone had taken one of his custom Microfighters off of his stand and, accidentally misplaced it, but he did get it back. It was returned, which is always a good thing. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on to this lovely interview. All right, guys, the next interview on the docket here, Ben Rollman.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy. And you brought a bunch of stuff.
I did.
The one thing that when I walked by this morning, your monochromatic Star Wars?
It's just like
custom
stuff.
Space. Yeah. Okay. Custom space stuff. I was like, oh, that is so cool. And you've got a bunch of the old gray in there, I saw.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Sometimes when you're building stuff out of gray, you can't help but have some of that old light gray in there.
So, why that deal?
Well, it started when the Everyone is Awesome set came out, and it was the rainbow of figures of multiple colors.
Sure.
And I've always been a space fan, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to swap out their hair for some helmets and some air tanks. And I thought, well, while I'm at it, I'll build a ship of every color that I have a spaceman for.
Okay.
They don't have brown spacemen
Right.
or some light blue spacemen, but I did which ones that we could get.
Sure.
Gray is hard to find. Purple is impossible for the tank. But it was fun building the ships. Some pieces I have fewer of. The purple was kind of a struggle to put together. And green had oddly few amounts of things that could clip and attach. So that was why that one's a little smaller. But it was just an exercise to see if it could be done. And it was kind of fun.
So in creating those, is that one of those things where you're kind of like, I only have these colored pieces because there's only, like you said, there's some things in some colors that don't exist. Was that kind of like where you had to determine the scale of the vehicle or the size of the vehicle?
Yeah, it was the yellow and the blue, obviously, and white were the largest because that's what I could find the coolest pieces for,
Sure.
the biggest number of pieces. Green and purple are a little smaller. Purple, I actually had to just go to eBay and type in purple Lego and just get a random bag of parts. There's a person in our lug who loves having purple, stuff built. So I was getting desperate and thinking maybe I could just go ask him if I could borrow some.
Sure.
But yeah, it was hard finding kind of neat things that could be used in a spaceship.
Yeah.
Wedge plates, things that clip, things could be used for engines that come in those colors. So that was the challenge. Getting 2x4 bricks in green was not a problem, but making it look like a spaceship after that was the challenge.
So you had mentioned lug. Are you part of TexLug?
I am, the Austin Tech Slug, yeah.
Okay. You're not part of the Houston group?
No, not part of the Houston Brick Club or the DFW lug.
Hey, I'm part of DFW, man. Come
No.
on. No.
So there's the it feels like there's the umbrella group of Tech Slug, and then there's all these other groups underneath it. But
the subsidiaries.
yeah, and Austin is still just Tech Slug, but I try to call it Tech Slug Austin because there's Tech Slug San Antonio and TVRR and all that. So try to differentiate.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
Okay, so your build. What else did you bring here? I mean, I know what you brought here, but for them that are listening, those awesome people, what else did you bring?
So I also brought, and it's mostly spaceships. I also brought 5 Star Wars ships that you can actually get. They are actual sets, and I replaced the colors and the parts on all of them to reflect kind of the 80s, 90s space themes. So,
which is really cool because is one of them M-Tron?
Yes, one of them's M-Tron.
I was like, oh my
So we've
God.
got M-Tron representing, and Ice Planet 2002 representing, and then Blacktron, Futron, and Classic Space.
Okay.
And they're sets that you could buy. And it started with, we got a lug bulk orange Spaceman. This is years ago. And we had a lug challenge to build something using those. And I was like, these would be great dual pilots for a snow speeder. So I just changed the snow speeder to Classic Space. And then from there, I was like, I can do this to other things. So I theme bent a couple other things, and it turned out really well. It was easy to do. And it's one of those things where if you're introducing people to mocking, you can say, it's as easy as doing this. All you have to do is replace the colors, and now it's a thing that you've built.
Right.
You know? And it's not as hard as coming up with something on your own, and it looks unique, and it's kind of a gateway into like doing your own stuff.
And that's something I never even really thought about before, just replacing the parts. And at least you're getting an idea of, well, you already know how it's built, but you're getting a different idea of like what it could look like. And it just
you have a good
spawns
end product
creation,
like already, and then I also brought my table of Microfighters.
I saw that. There's a bunch.
Yeah, there's I have 60 here. I have another couple at home that aren't really mine. The ones that I brought are my own designs. The ones that I still left at home are the ones that I found online that I just don't feel right kind of displaying those because they weren't, I found the directions on Rebrickable or reverse engineered them from Flickr or something.
Oh, okay.
And I have a bunch more designs, and it's just a process of just getting the parts. The hardest thing now is the more rare the ship or vehicle is, it's harder to find minifigures for.
Okay.
If it's something a clone pilots, you can find clones anywhere. But if it's like some obscure comic book Star Wars reference, you're like, oh, I got to find that one weird pilot that you've only seen on 2 pages of a comic book. So you have to kit bash it or think somebody's got it on a minifig printed site or something.
Sure.
So that's now becoming the limiting factor. Not really building the ship, but just like who I can put in that.
Sure.
And then I brought UT Tower, a state capitol building, a couple other smaller things to go with it. So that's what I got.
The tower looks pretty cool.
Thank you.
I like that. I was talking to someone earlier this morning, and they were saying there's not a lot of things with height here, but it's a smaller show.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that you do have height for, but it looks sharp.
Thanks.
I like it.
Yeah.
So why even create that? Just because you could?
Yeah. So that was the early days of figuring out that I could kind of build stuff on my own, and early days of being part of the lug and mocking and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It was actually built by me and an old friend who were trying to recruit people to a UT lug.
Okay.
So we were like, we should build the tower, and that'll be a great recruitment tool. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being that I kept it, and it went to the first Brick Fiesta,
Sure.
and just have had it ever since. And every time I go to a show, I bring it along. So it's like the grand old dom of Lego Texas Lego conventions.
I like that. Are you going to take it to Brick Rodeo next year again?
If I go to Brick Rodeo, which I plan on doing at this point, so far nothing else has come up.
Yeah, sure.
To interrupt that schedule, but yes, I'll probably at least bring that. Probably the Microfighters. Not much else. I've got to be able to travel.
Of course. Yeah.
So whatever I could bring up to Colleen today fit fine, as long as I didn't take a passenger with me.
Yeah.
If my wife were to come with me, I'd have to sacrifice a few builds here and there.
Sure.
But I think a lot of it could go.
What do you have anything that you're working on right now that you're like, you know what, I would like to display something like this in the future?
Yeah. I have a nearly complete Q2 stadium, which is where the MLS team Austin FC plays. And I'm currently waiting on parts from Lithuania. PSA to all your fans out there to take risks. When you take risks on ordering internationally, usually the shop's fine. It's just going to take a really long time. Yeah, the shipping's really a problem. So I'm waiting on that. I've actually got it mostly built. It's based off the same size as like the old Trafford Stadium or the Camp Nou Stadium.
Yeah.
So that scale of stadium. And it was a lot of fun to build. And the supporter group, I'm part of the supporter group for the team, and they're very excited to get instructions for it.
Sure.
And I haven't had the heart to tell them it's going to take a couple months to get the instructions for it. But then after that, I'm also building a larger scale, kind of like what I did with the state capitol, the huge 65,000 piece one that I'm trying to work with the team itself to get it displayed at the stadium.
Okay.
They're interested, but I told them it's probably going to take a few years to design it and get the parts and everything for it.
Yeah,
So we'll see how it goes. But I'm currently working on that in studio. It's just a matter of figuring out how to build it to travel and how to make it stable and things like that. Building at that scale is really a challenge.
Well, and that's one of the things that I hear a lot of people say is when you build, it's got to travel, and it's got to travel well. Yeah. Some people build some things in a modular fashion, like, I can just remove these 2 clips or these 2 pieces, and it comes apart this easy. And then, like you said, the travel factor is a big one, especially somebody like here in Texas. If you go to Nebraska Brick Days or you go up to Chicago Brick World, it's like, are you going to survive the 15-hour trek?
Yeah. Like, do you fly with this at all? Is it a carry-on? Are you driving 15 hours, like you said? When I did the Capitol, I was so excited to get it built, and it's mostly hollow. Like, if you ever visit the visitor center, you don't realize that it's a shell.
Yeah.
The studio render came out at or the piece count was like 62,000, but I know we ended up adding a couple grand of like just 2x4s just to get it solid. And it fell apart en route, and we only had to drive 10, 15 minutes to get from my house to the Capitol, and the dome completely crushed. Like, we had to rebuild the dome on site. Yeah. So, and it was not built to travel. It wasn't even built to, like, leave my house. Like, it was so big, I had to go back and figure out how to get it out the door. Now with the Q2 Stadium, I'm like, everything has to be built in a 10 by 10 cube so I can put it in those boxes. Yeah. So that presents a bit of a challenge, is how to stack them and how to get them to hold together and things like that.
So the FC Austin Stadium.
Yeah.
You're wearing an MLS jersey right now.
Yeah.
The original football, people call it soccer here, but big soccer fan, I guess. Is that why you're like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I want to have my own.
So I played soccer as a kid and in through high school, and I stopped because I was a goalie and I got kicked in the face and broke my jaw. And I was like, I don't think this is for me anymore. But I've always been a fan. I've been a fan of watching like Premier League and MLS and stuff like that. The women's national team's always been a big hit to watch.
Awesome.
They're
incredible.
An awesome team. So when I was really excited when we got one football team, we got the Austin Bold, and I was like, that's really great. Mm-hmm. And then about 6 months later, it was announced we got an MLS team, and I felt really bad for the Austin Bold. But I was like, well, that's really cool. Now we have 2 football team or soccer teams that we can go watch. But just being a part of the supporter group, the Los Verdes supporter group, has been a really amazing feeling to be part of that. Mm-hmm. And building the stadium was kind of, when I set out to build new things, I'm like, has it been done yet? I don't want to like rebuild on somebody's idea or try to make it better just because I was like, they already did a great job. I'm not going to try to improve. But Q2 Stadium is so new that I'm like, I don't think anybody's done this yet. So if I can jump on it and get while the iron's hot, it'll be great. Plus I like building, either giant things like the Capitol or very small things like Microfighters. There's not a lot in between apparently.
Well, with that said, let's talk about your Lego journey.
Okay.
Because everybody starts somewhere. Some people, the pandemic really pulled a lot of people out of their dark ages.
Right.
As a kid, big Lego fan as a kid?
Oh, yeah. Some of my earliest memories are the toys that you'd get for birthdays and Christmas and stuff. And there was always Lego. Uh-huh. There was always Lego and Star Wars. The Lego, I didn't at the time when I was a kid realize it's something that you hold on to. And as a kid, you make your own, you mock everything. You just build whatever. It's not like we do now where it's like it sits in a box, it goes to a show, or you put it on Instagram or something. It was just, I want to build a spaceship, so let's build a spaceship.
Yeah.
And then you hit high school, and there's the Dark Ages. Everybody kind of has the Dark Ages. Yeah. And then Star Wars in '99 brought me out of that.
I just heard about that with the last interview.
Yeah. I think it's Star Wars or Bionicle really brought people kind of out of their Dark Ages because they're like, this is a thing that I can get into. It's very interesting looking. And either one of those, I feel like one of the two of those may have saved Lego. I think it was more Bionicle than Star Wars. Sure. I think Star Wars almost sunk them. I think there was a lot of licensing that they're like, I think we spent a lot of money on this. That may be a problem. But I was working I was in IT. I was working at a day trading firm, and I was looking at like news feeds, and I saw that Lucas had got into an agreement with Lego, and I was like, and it took me a second to realize what that was. I'm like, they're going to make Star Wars Lego. They're going to do something I've been doing since I was a kid, you know, for real. So that was kind of I still had a lot of my sets, but they were in storage or something, and that really is what brought me out of the dark ages to start buying sets and making my own stuff again. So, and since then, it was a couple years before I found a lug, and then started doing my own stuff with them. And it's been a real positive journey being part of that group, and now being a Lego ambassador, it's like a whole other level of responsibility and interaction and communication with people. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it changes a lot.
Yes, yeah.
It changes a lot. You're the big dog then.
Yeah. The me of 10 years ago went, you're not going to be doing any of that. No. Build your little tower, be quiet, go back to whatever you're doing. You know, go back to your comic book drawing. You know.
So, I mean, you've had many, many years of Lego, especially as an adult. Is there a favorite theme that you have that might be current or in the past? Obviously, I'm not going to say obviously. Most of the time I hear classic space or whatever. So what would you say is your favorite or was your favorite?
I'm going to go ahead and say Futron was my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I know classic space was big for a lot of people. I feel like Futron hit me when I was using my own money to buy Lego. So it's not like I was a kid and just getting whatever from my parents or whatever. But when I was making a choice of what toys to buy, I was always buying that. And that hit when I was like 13 or 14, so I'd ride my bike to the mall and buy the latest Futron set or whatever. And I still have memories of listening to like old 80s music. I'm like, oh, that's the song I was listening to when I first did this set. Very reptilian brain thing going on. So that's what I tried to capture. I'm actually trying to do another ideas submission, and it's kind of taking that theme of like Futron, Blacktron, Experian, Spirius, those kinds of themes, and kind of recreating it without being too combative. Like it's a little more science and exploration type. So I'm fleshing that out. I've started building it a little bit, and hopefully it kind of makes people think of that time period, you know, 80s, 90s space stuff. So
you bring up ideas. It's a very cool platform. It's incredible to see some of the creations that come out of it.
Agreed.
The Van Gogh Starry Night just blew my mind away. I was like, there's no way they're going to make that. There's no way. They made it. I think I can die happy now.
Right.
You had mentioned the one, what you would like to see as an ideas project. Is there anything else that you would like to create and be like, you know what, I really want to put this out there, whatever it may be?
Right. So I actually have one on my table now that I submitted a few years ago. When the bird sets all hit, and they were ideas as well, or they were, at that time I think it was QSO.
Oh, yes.
Before it became ideas.
Sure, yeah.
So there was a set of birds that were like the gift to Lego employees, right? And it's hard to find now. But then there was the three birds that came out from QSO ideas, and they were great. And I was like, I think they should do more. There's more birds that can be done. So I did a barn owl that's on the table over there, and I submitted it. But at the time, I wasn't really sure how to promote it and make it look pretty and make a video or an introductory thing. So it just kind of sat there as a photo, and it wasn't really pleasing and didn't get a lot of votes. But I'd like, if I were to do it again, now I have a little more knowledge of it. I would like to see more kind of space exploration, scientific discovery kind of things. Anytime I find one of those on the site, I will definitely support it. I'm a big fan of like the shuttle coming out, the Women of NASA sets. They even had a thing that just went to hospitals that was like an MRI machine.
Okay.
I was like, anything that's like that, that's like scientifically oriented, I think would be great. So that may be something I'd look into doing in the future. Or if anybody has a project like that, definitely support it.
That's where you're looking.
Yeah.
You're scrolling through.
Yeah.
Not for me, not for me. Yes.
Nuclear physics, space exploration. What else we got? Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, I know you got to have social media.
Oh, I do.
So anybody that may not follow you already, where can they find you?
They can find me just about everywhere at Ben's Brick Designs. I do streaming on YouTube and Twitch.
Yep.
I've got a TikTok channel, Facebook page, Instagram, all the works.
So what is your favorite platform between Twitch and YouTube?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Twitch hasn't really figured out its Lego thing yet.
Yeah.
I know that like Brick Nick is really big, and a couple others, and they've figured out their audience. But I think that carried over a little bit from previous. They were big on Instagram or they were big on YouTube before, and then they brought their following over. I think YouTube is better for a community. I think once you find your group on YouTube, it's really easy to kind of build on that and have people find you. Twitch, I think, is a little more subgroupy still.
Very.
I think the tools on Twitch are a little better, and I think once you are part of the community, Twitch itself treats you a little better. It's a little hit and miss. I don't have a ton of people following me, so it's like I don't know. Whoever's on the stream that night,
right.
That's the platform I like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had mentioned about Twitch, and you have some of the big heavy hitters. It's 1-2%, whatever it is, 5%, and then you have this level of so many people that are just trying to, and kudos to them, just being able to communicate with people, and they all have their own little groups, and there's crossover with some into the next and whatever. But I think you're right. It really hasn't. Twitch hasn't hit its stride with the Lego building community, and there it's there. It is there.
Yeah.
I just think some things need tweaked, because when you get to YouTube, it's up, it's popping, it's going, it's very big.
Yeah.
So very
I
cool.
think with YouTube, it's there's the talking head panel, where you get the 6 squares of like heads or avatars, and nobody's really even showing what they're building or anything.
Right.
They're just talking about Lego. I mean, to be fair, but with Twitch, since it's so game oriented to start, it was kind of like Flickr in the old days, where there was a huge Lego group that was part of it, but because it was photography oriented, they're like, what, you're taking pictures of your sets or something, or the art community that came over. They're like, this is really a photography platform. And I think Twitch is still like kind of a gaming platform.
Right.
And there are a ton of people doing Lego builds, and most of the time you go to their streams and there's nobody on them. So they're just kind of sitting there talking to themselves, and it's sad, but it's very encouraging to see that more and more people are doing it.
Yeah. So now I talk to myself in my studio. It's sad.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's very sad. I do it twice a week where I'm just sitting there and like I will comment and say, well, I just did that, but nobody saw it, so that's fine, There's the VODs, but I'm like, who's going to go back and watch 2-hour VODs of stuff,
It's worse for streamers because you're in front of the camera. I'm behind a microphone, not behind a camera, so I sit back or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my thing. You've got the face. You're like, and there's nobody here.
Yeah.
And
It's good to like have not like note cards or something, but have a few ideas of like, well, I can talk about something for 2 hours, even if you're just talking about your day. You're like, well, me and my wife did this, or the dog did this thing, or let's talk about the news a little bit. You try to stay away from politics.
Yes.
But if a big thing happened, you're like, oh, let's talk about this big media event or
Right.
something. So you can fill some space.
We can always fill space with dogs on Twitch. Always.
Yeah.
You have a dog walk through the shot, and then you've got 30 minutes of content right
Yeah,
there.
I've got this really adorable little dog. I'll just hold up and go, look, puppy, and the views go way up.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, go check out his social medias, all the things, Twitch, YouTube, everything. And hopefully I run into you again in another show, see some new builds. And if not, just say hello and check out the old stuff. Well,
Great.
Not the old stuff, the current stuff.
The stuff.
The stuff. So that's going to wrap up this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed it with Ben. And thanks for coming on. I'll see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap up another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Ben. It was a pleasure to talk to him. And, hopefully, again, if you are somebody that is in the Texas area or somebody that, travels to other shows, maybe you'll have an opportunity to come across him. His builds are incredible. Just like so many mock builders that I've ever talked to, their builds are absolutely incredible. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. And as always, I'm your minifig ghost, Matt. Let's build on it.